Brigade presents the Realty Debate, powered by Reliance Home Finance with Manisha Natarajan.
We are all hoping and cheering for a year of good monsoon. And for India, this dependence on seasonal rains to fill up its rivers and recharge groundwater brings with it great responsibility. The responsibility to ensure that this rainwater is harvested. And this is just one of the very basic green principles that must be adopted by each one of us. But are we doing so? And doing so earnestly rather than just making the ticks on the boxes on green construction. Today on the Realty Debate, we ask the question, is India's real estate industry adopting green with passion, or is it still at a stage of lip service? Joining me is Dr. Prem C. Jain, Chairman, IGBC Council, Sanjay Gupta, MD PNB Housing Finance. And if you're just wondering why a housing finance gentleman is joining us, is because they believe so much in green that they actually have a fund to fund green projects, let me say. Tanmay Tathagat, Director, Environmental Design Studios. We can't do a green debate without Tanmay on the show. And also Dr. Chandrasekhar Hariharan, the champion of green construction in India and green residential projects. He's also the Executive Chairman, Biodiversity Conservation India. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to start with looking at some of the IGBC figures, which actually say that, the footprint is actually increasing. They were the first ones to develop green ratings for residential projects in India. And they say out of a total registered green building footprint of 3.82 billion square feet registered under IGBC green building rating systems, residential areas cover about 60 to 70%. And this came as a really positive surprise. One would believe that it must be the hotels and the commercial establishments and offices which were adopting green seriously. But it's very, very heartening to know that upcoming new residential projects are also doing so. The balanced footprint, as we've already said, is commercial buildings, schools, campuses, MRTS, etc. And as on date, a total of 810 projects, I'm assuming here, have received green building ratings to facilitate 10 billion square feet of registered green building footprint by 2022. So that's the big target. Now, criteria for evaluation, what do they look after? We'll get to Dr. Jain and ask him. Dr. Jain, let me just first come to this whole thing about Indian real estate and construction industry actually going beyond lip service to green. Is that happening? Or, the data is looking very exciting, but is it really, really happening on ground?
Manisha, I'm very happy to report to you that by and large, at least in the southern part of India, the rainwater harvesting is extremely well adopted.
Okay.
The classic example is Chennai. About 7-8 years ago, it was water deficient. Today, the ministry made it compulsory for every home to make a rainwater harvesting system. And suddenly, the city has become water positive. So there is a very good example in the country that green doesn't mean just lip service, but actually adopting it to the core.
Okay.
And as you will appreciate, rainwater harvesting has been a fundamental principle from thousands of years. So we're really going back to our roots in adopting it again. And now it's become much more easy to do the rainwater harvesting. Unfortunately, the proliferation in the northern part of India is still
harvesting, Dr. Jain, is just one of the things. I mean,
yes.
I'm not actually going through the list because we'll flash it while you're speaking. There are many things that you look after: soil, waste disposal, just energy efficiency. So tell me, I mean, beyond rainwater harvesting, how much in construction industry, how much of it is being just adopted at the project stage, saying, okay, let's begin with it. And I think the bigger question here is it really being followed up? Is it being monitored? This question is being asked to both IGBC and GREHA.
Sure.
Are you monitoring it? I mean, are you making sure that these systems which are established or during construction are actually monitored later and they're performing?
Yes, I'm happy to report to you, Manisha, that we have been doing that, exactly what you are saying. We have been equally concerned about it. Number one, our IGBC rating is given upon completion of the project, not on the design, not during construction, but after having completed the project. So rating is given when the actual performance of the building is established. Now the question is, the performance going to be retained for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? So what we did, we went back to the building which was certified. As you rightly said, we have nearly 800 projects which have been certified. 75 of them we have already tabulated. Okay. And I'm very happy to report to you that without any exception, all the 75 projects today are doing slightly better or at least equal to when they're given the rating, which is a real solid proof in terms of not just performing for getting the medal or the badge or the reward, but actually getting it to perform continuously.
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Hariharan, would you actually agree and concur with Dr. Jain that this is really happening, and once a developer has adopted green at the project stage, and once the project has been certified green by either IGBC or GREHA, this is followed through. It's not something which is just on paper or just at the project execution stage.
Well, one is that I can't disagree with what Dr. Jain presented as an overview of what the IGBC is doing.
Okay.
If you step back from it, we are actually talking of 4 stakeholders: industry, government, business, and consumers, which also stands for IGBC in a certain sense. Now, to me, the effective change is in behavior and in approach that each of these stakeholders bring to what we need to be doing to take the country on this path of GDP and growth, while we are sensitive to the scarce resource situation that India has before her over the next 15 years. We have to learn from that lesson that China has, kind of presented to us after what they went through in the 90s and the early part of the last decade. This is a defining decade for us. And if I go back to that specific question of yours of how a builder within the industry as a member is responding to these things, I would say that there has been a very significant shift, particularly in the last 3 years. If I were to go back to 2010, we saw first a hesitant start. By 2012 or 13, there was a significant move toward a lot of these industry members wanting to apply for such certification. Today, the change I am seeing across the country, and I've been in quite a few such meetings, is that we have people within the building industry wanting to seek such certification. Now, I will only say this. What the rating systems have done, regardless of which protocol one is following, is this. What was once a vision of sustainability has now been reduced to things that an engineer and a project manager on any builder project can take to as simple methodology. Okay. I've often said this over the last, say, 5-6 years, that the protocols of each of these green guidelines have, dumbed down the process. They've demythified this whole, process of achieving
hold your thought there.
sustainability
Dr.
services.
Hariharan, hold your thought there. Now we're also joined by Dr. Ajay Mathur from GREHA. Okay, Dr. Mathur, this is what he's saying. He's saying the methodology has basically, I would to say, dumbed down the whole sustainability vision per se, and what must be done to have a sustainable construction and real estate in this country. Do you agree with that charge which has been leveled? Not by me this time, but by another cynical gentleman on the other side who's very passionate about green.
Well, you could say that every textbook of engineering is a dumbing down of engineering principles.
Okay.
To that extent, I think Mr. Hariharan is right. We have got the art of green buildings down to a science. Mm-hmm. That's the plus. The problem, of course, is that the numbers of people who are going in for this, while they are increasing, is still limited.
Okay.
For a variety of reasons, but largely because in the country we have a huge surplus of real estate, and the surplus of real estate means that the green label is seen as an additional USP. Mm-hmm. Not bad, but it's not a primary driver.
It's still not a primary. So you agree that it's still not a primary driver?
It's a supply side driver. It's not a demand side driver.
Why do you say that is a supply side driver?
Oh, well, I'm putting a label. I'm the guy who's selling it. I'm putting a label because I can't sell any other way.
So you are saying that it's more a marketing. Let me say that it's a marketing tool. It's great to have that little bit of a green tag, either a IGBC or a GREHA rating. That brings me back to this question, which now I'm going to throw to Tanmay. Tanmay, how do we change that? So, all right, I agree and accept that it's gone beyond lip service. It's not just lip service. At least all of those people who call their projects green are getting weeded out of the market. The customer is aware that you must have a Griha or a IGBC rating, and if you don't have it, then that green is meaningless. So, great. And both IGBC and Griha have very set standards of what must be followed. Now, the question is, how many are really passionate about it and would like and have a vision of sustainability, which is what Dr. Hariharan wants to know?
Absolutely. Well, so let's first agree to some of the things that I've just heard. And some of the highlights are that, number one, we do have a better awareness of rating systems. So no doubt about it that most major builder or a developer would know about the rating system, the choices, the pros and cons and everything. Number two, and which is the biggest achievement, is that still till today there is a credibility in this rating. So we have, my biggest apprehension is with any of these third-party driven rating certification is how long is it credible. So that sanctity is still there, and that means that whatever somebody is claiming, whether it's for Griha or IGBC, there's a very good chance that all those things are implemented and checked by a third party. So that's so far the good part. The problem is that how many of these would you expect to be passionate? So even when people talk about sustainability and green building, they talk about three things: people, planet, and profit. Now it's your guess as to how many of these are driven by one of these three motives. If you look at the distribution of the building sector, of the kinds of people who are making houses or developers, we don't expect everybody to be doing this out of passion. It's fine if they're doing it for profit. I really have no objection to that. But there are people who are driving it for the reasons of passion, and they set the benchmark. So Dr. Hariharan's project may be setting the benchmark for what the best of a green building could be.
Okay.
And then it's fine to have 300 other projects that are certified for the sake of certification, as long as they do a good job. Now, here is where the catch is, that are we running for the sake of numbers and deliberately dumbing down the system so that we get more numbers? And that's where the biggest danger is.
All right. So let me get that answer, Dr. Jain. Have we dumbed down too much?
But I see
just for the certification process, there's a target that you have. Have we dumbed down the whole, IGBC certification or Griha certification, or have we made it very, very easy to get this certification, sir?
I definitely say no. Definitely no, because we keep revising our rating system every 3 years, Manisha. And every time we revise, we come to the current Indian standards, like ECBC is being revised, NBC is already revised. So our rating systems are now meant based on the new version of the NBC, which is far more stringent. Of course, as per the Indian needs. It may not fulfill the American needs or the Western needs, but as per the Indian needs, like the water conservation, energy requirement, they've all been upgraded to make it more stringent than what they were 3 years ago.
Okay, fair enough. So that's answered. I'm going to ask Dr. Ajay Mathur. I want to know, and this is something that has been raised before also, the performance monitoring. Why is no comprehensive data available in public domain, either for Griha or IGBC? So once the certification is given, why can't, every 6 monthly or once a year, that performance monitoring be made available?
Well, the data is starting to be made available. Remember, these buildings got their certification not that long ago. This is a 5, 6, 7 year old movement.
But that's long enough. I mean, if you were doing an annual appraisal, then annually, like you do, I get an appraisal every year of how well I'm doing.
Sure.
So that's why I really have to work hard for every show.
Those of us who are engineers here in this room spent 4 years to get our engineering degree. It's only then that the performance appraisal can start. A building has to be constructed before appraisals can start. So now you're starting to see them there.
Okay. All right. So you're saying that will become much more hard-coded. Let me just look at now the profit part of it, because there is a gentleman who's in the business of making money and very, very good business decisions, and he's decided that he would want to fund green projects. Now, Sanjay Gupta, tell me, why is, I mean, of all the places we would think PNB, Housing Finance, they would be the last ones to jump on the bandwagon of actually looking at it. I'm sorry, but you still have the tag. You might be a very progressive and a very profitable division, but you still have the public sector bank name in front. So why this whole belief that this is a profitable business to be in and green is actually not profitable?
Okay. First and foremost, I would like to demystify that public sector is not profitable. We are
No, you are profitable. I said, how do you, I absolutely said you're profitable.
Just a second. It's a myth. I mean, no rule book is written that a public sector cannot be profitable. So that is one thing. The second thing is that we drive our business through opportunities. Now, what happened last year when we were just doing, review of our advanced processing facility, where we sort of grant, legal and technical appraisal of projects, which we fund for our retail customers. We found that about 5% of our total stock was actually green stock. So we have about stock of 4,000 odd approved projects across the country and about 75 odd green buildings. So it excited us.
You're saying that out of your portfolio of 4,000, only 75 are certified green?
Certified green buildings.
It's not a big number at all.
Yeah, but it is but it was a discovery.
Okay.
Because as people are saying, and we are also in early stages of our learning curve on the green initiative. So when we said, well, we have something unique with us, why don't we progress it more? And then we approached IFC Washington for a green bond, and they did it for us. It's an Indian rupee denominated bond of about 500 crores. So these funds will only be used to fund developers across the country to build residential green buildings. And we have these funds, and we are very positive that we will find some bankable projects across the country, some good real estate developers, and obviously GREA, EDGE, and IGBC are the certifications that we will be looking forward, and we will like to associate with these certifying agencies to help us, identify these projects.
All right. So PNB, just to put the perspective for our audience, PNB Housing Finance has raised 500 crore by issuing bonds to World Bank arm IFC for funding its green residential projects, which is what Sanjay Gupta just mentioned. But a lot more exciting things are happening. And some of the latest, like Tata Housing has partnered with US IGBC, or it shouldn't be US IGBC, it should be USBGC, to develop 20 million square feet of LEED and well-certified green homes in India. Things like clean air, pure water, adequate light, some things which Sanjay Gupta has put in perspective. The internal aspects of green as well, adequate comfort and light have become a unique selling point and are packaged into a concept of wellness homes forest project in Thane, Maharashtra. So that's the other interesting thing which has happened. So lots of new things are happening beyond just calling it, just maybe giving it a lip service. Now, according to Dodge Data and Analytics World Green Building Trends 2016 report, by 2018, the green building industry in India will grow 20%, driven largely by environmental regulations and demand for healthier neighborhoods. So, Tanmay, tell me now, there's been a lot of movement at the central government level, especially the environment minister has become extremely proactive when it comes to reviving norms of green, from waste management to everything else. What more can the government do other than the basic demand which real estate industry has? Give us either a discount or an extra FAR.
Well, again, if I go back to my earlier example, if you look at the number of buildings that are coming up and the regulatory requirements that builders have, I think it'll be the easiest way to ensure all buildings are green by incorporating the minimum standards. There should be no building that does not meet at least the minimum requirements of GREHA or IGBC or LEED or any other rating system that we see appropriate.
Not give them a permission
globally, whether you look at examples in Europe or in... Go ahead. Make a list of 30 things that you must do that make it mandatory. It should not be allowed that you create a building that is damaging environment, that's not meeting
shut down
the
both
basic
these
requirement
businesses of the
health,
gentleman on my right and the
safety,
gentleman on my
energy
left if
efficiency.
it
Why
becomes
would you allow that?
mandatory.
Not necessarily.
No?
That's the platform. We
No,
pull
I'm saying
things up.
a minimum standard goes mandatory.
Yes.
And then for anything else, you incentivize. You incentivize through better FARs, through better financing, through banks.
Dr. Hariharan, would you agree that the government has a large role to play and it's possibly not a single building permit should be given without meeting those basic 20 to 30 criteria of sustainability?
All right. I'll put it like this to you. It cannot be passion or vision driven.
Okay.
It has to be driven by two, call them if you like, drivers. One will be the legal framework, as Tanmay was also saying, and the other will be market dictate. So you've got a legal dictate and a market dictate. Let's remember that we are a vast country. We are 7,900 cities/towns. We are about 400 cities that need immediate attention on energy and water deficits. We are 60 cities which are at 1 million as population today, or will be in the next 5 years. Now, what it means is this, that, if you look at the kind of governance system and mechanism that you have got in this country, you will see that it is pretty easy to bring such a legislation if you went through the Ministry of Urban Development and went through the urban local bodies. After Article 74, life has become very easy in terms of such directives going through the system.
Okay.
I could be in a city like, say, Guna in Madhya Pradesh or Shimoga in Karnataka, and all I need is one directive from the MOUD in a way that I can move things as a commissioner at an urban local body, right?
Okay.
Now, and the numbers of things that we need to change are not very many.
Okay, that's also
Well,
encouraging to hear.
I realize, yes, I realize that Mr. Gupta sensitized us to the extra additional values of internal environment quality when it comes to air, for instance, and a few other benefits of health that buildings like these bring. If we went on this enrollment of vision with consumers or with the builders and such stakeholders, we are not going to get anywhere.
Okay. I think I'm glad to establish that my entire construct of this debate, that how can we get them passionate, isn't going to happen. So you're saying make it legal and also have the market dictate it. A final word, Dr. Jain, I mean, you have a big vision, you have a big number to meet. I just want to make sure that this agenda is not lost, and like you said, you'll keep raising the bar and have builders come on board. So you think you're going to meet that target?
100% yes. Absolutely yes.
Okay. Sanjay, what about you? I mean, this is one fund that you've raised of bonds. Are there more? You will first deploy it. How quickly do you think you'll
I
deploy
think
it?
in about 18 to 19 months, we should be able to exhaust.
You will find enough real estate projects to be able to deploy.
Yeah, so once we earmark this 500, we will certainly look for another round of fresh issuance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Ajabathur, I mean, what is your own vision for Griha and green ratings for Indian homes or Indian residents?
The key has to be that consumers, users of buildings demand this.
Yeah.
It cannot be
It
supply-based.
has to be demand.
So we need demand-based interventions. The FAR is ultimately a demand-based intervention. I, as a building owner, get benefits. Similarly, if the electricity tariff of an efficient building, of a green building, is lower than that of a non-green building, I, as a user, will prefer it. If the technologies that lead to it, waste heat to electricity, all that kind of stuff, if they get pushed,
right.
If there is a way I can use them easily, then I will use it. So we have to now start looking at ways which get consumers to come to green buildings rather than green buildings going to consumers.
All right. Will that happen, Tanmay? Consumers will start demanding more and more. You think can you sense that change?
Yes. So that change would happen, but the basic requirement of a fundamental green building has to be regulated, because we do have to remember that majority of construction, and especially if you talk about residential, is not happening through large developers. You know, the kind of examples of Guna and Shimoga that Hari gave are towns where you won't find a IGBC or a Griha rated building. So unless it is a part of a formal regulation, we'll still be talking about, as I said, 75 out of 4,000 buildings. And in a few years, it may become 150 out of 10,000. Okay. But what I am optimistic about is there is a positive reflection in both the incentives that are being given. But more important, if you look at the job creation and the industrial economy, which is sort of the green economy, that I think is taking root.
Gentlemen, I will have to wrap out here. We've heard all your voices. Thank you very much for joining me. It's always such a personal pleasure to do this part of real estate and a discussion. I'm hoping next time when we meet, that number which Sanjay just shared with us, 75 out of 4,000 will go up to 150, if not more. And I'm going to leave my viewers with the tangible benefits. I mean, now look at it. Why should you be demanding? If you demand a green home, a green building, a green project, it will happen. Energy savings of 30%, water saving of 50%, intangible benefits, better air quality, longer life, excellent daylighting, well-being for the occupants, and basically, it's very simple. You should recycle everything, save everything, and conserve natural resources. And I think that's it. That's all that you have to demand. It's not too much to ask.
Is, cost of living.
And cost of living. Absolutely big positive on your pocket as well. I'm going to wrap out of this discussion, but when we come back, we move to another area of interest beyond green. How about the construction quality of your project itself? The basic construction quality, the building or the apartment you're buying, our construction technology is becoming more efficient and quality of the end product getting better in Indian real estate compared to 3 years ago, let's say. Stay with us.